What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. So glad to have your time today, and I'm excited for this one. First time I'm recording a podcast in a different city, in a different state, coming to you live or recorded from Atlanta, Georgia. My man Greco House in the building, man. How you doing?
What's up, Teddy? How you doing? It's good to be here, man.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the podcast, man. I've been following your moves, and I know you're Mr. Worldwide.
Trying, man.
Yeah, I'm just glad you could take the time to talk with us today and talk with some of our listeners. For any of the listeners that they haven't been introduced to you, what you do, your music and things like that, I guess give a quick little rundown, 5-minute resume of who you are.
So I'm originally based in New York. That's obviously where you and I met. We met in high school, which is, we'll get into that in a little bit too, which is amazing. So, thank you for having me, first of all. And my name's Greco. My last name is Greco. I go by Greco NYC as an artist. I've been producing dance music for close to 10 years now.
Nice.
And I've been grateful enough to and fortunate enough to be able to take my craft and my passion for music all around the world, and that's what we're here for. We're at Imagine Music Festival this weekend. We just performed yesterday.
Nice.
Today we got off, so get to hang out and do this right now with the podcast. So thank you for all the listeners hanging out with us today. So let's get right into it.
I love it. How'd the set go yesterday?
Oh, it was beautiful, man. It was so much fun. I mean, we really lucked out with the weather too this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And this is their 6th year out here doing the Imagine Music Festival, and it's just phenomenal, honestly. Like, the energy in the place was through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, we were there almost 12 hours yesterday, just kind of meeting everyone, and it's incredible to see the dance music industry almost infiltrate all these markets in the United States. Because for a long time it was only maybe New York, Chicago, Detroit, parts of California, parts of Florida, but now it's really starting to get more into other cities in the States, which is incredible. This is my first time in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I was able to play one of these huge music festivals, and they've got international DJs from all over the world coming here this weekend. Also paired up with charity work, and it's just all for a great cause, honestly, man.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure.
Had to be surreal and all that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It
still is.
Pinch myself, right? I must be dreaming. And that's the thing. I'd love to kind of unpack, rewind, because like you said, we met in high school, and going from how we knew each other in high school to here we are, you're seeing the whole world. You're playing on stages, and you're meeting people. And you're living a life that I would say, from the outside looking in, right? Because a lot of people, they don't see behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But from the outside looking in, it could be something that people really aspire to, and they can respect from afar and appreciate. And obviously, that doesn't happen overnight. I know we were talking before, you mentioned how you've been in the industry close to 10 years, and probably the influences, I would imagine, go farther past that. So I guess let's start from the beginning. When did you first start getting introduced to house music, or got introduced to DJing, and when did the bug start first biting you?
I was really young. I mean, growing up in New York, we were exposed to so much dance music back in the 90s too.
Mm-hmm.
Even just on radio play. So I guess that was probably where it started. My parents were into disco and funk and all the, soul.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, then my brother, who's about 8 years older than me, was going to dance clubs in New York City when we were growing up in high school. We couldn't go to the clubs yet, so I'm over here grabbing my brother's CDs from the car, and he's like, "Where's my house CD?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't.
Meanwhile, he goes into my room, pops open the CD deck. There's 6 CD changer. It's all his CDs.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was pretty much it. Honestly, it was something fresh. It was new. It was different. It was very different. And for me, that music's always been a part of my life. I play piano. I've just been around it for so long, and it just made sense to just, I guess, further involve myself and kind of fully immerse myself in music. But it really just started just by having a love and passion for music. I think that everybody shares. Music's a universal language. So I mean, that's why I really love it, is that you can take this music all over the world, and you'll be able to share that with everybody that you come across.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a mixture of music and business, and I mean, just the whole thing in itself was just it was fascinating to me.
Just grabbed you, right?
Yeah, it was just I just always gravitated towards music. So that's ultimately what like I kept running into. I was really into business. My father's an entrepreneur, so that that sort of mindset was always there for me. Aside from being the artist, I also wear another hat where I run a record label. So it's tough. I'm sure you do the same thing where it's like you're trying to do 8 different things. So one day you got to wear this hat or another hat. So I think the industry has changed so much for dance music or just music in general is now with the power of influence, and you got social media taking over. Now you have to be a marketing genius. You have to be into promotions. You have to have, such a a more well-rounded vision for what you want to do in this business or in this industry. Some people are fortunate enough to have a team behind them and do all that and be specific to what they want to do as the artist. But I didn't have that luxury, so I kind of came up from just being really passionate about this and wanting to do it and continue doing it. And for me, instead of, I didn't have those resources, so ultimately it came down to just me doing that for myself.
Just stepping up and then kind of just jumping headfirst into it.
Yeah, straight up, yeah.
And as you start getting the influence with the music and that's all growing, at what point did you decide this is what you want to do? Because I think a lot of people, they have their passion projects, they have their ambitions, they have things that they love. And unfortunately for a lot of us, it doesn't become more than a hobby. It doesn't become more than something we do on the weekends here and there. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who have that craft that they're working on, which doesn't pay the bills. At what point did you decide, or were you able to kind of think of, hey, this can be what pays the bills and what I do? This is more than just a hobby.
Yeah, I think I would say right from the get-go, like I knew exactly what I wanted to do here. And it didn't really boil down to money at that point because I was so young. Like money wasn't even, I'm still living at home. Yeah, I can, we're going to school, or, kind of going through the motions of most kids, like we're just still trying to figure out what exactly we're here to do or what we're passionate about or meant to do. And, for me, I've always just been into music. Like music was always there for me. Like I've been through a lot of hard times. Music's always there, man. Like, and that's like, without music, I don't know if I'd still be here today.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Nah, I hear that.
And, with that, like I started, working more and more and trying to build up, pretty much just like my own brand. So, but with the music aspect of it, like you just have to be passionate about it, and that's what I followed. I followed my heart. It's all love, man. Like honestly, at the end of the day, you got to do what you love. Yeah. So that was an easy decision for me. Now figuring out how I was gonna monetize that was a whole different ball game. And that because when you're younger, you're not really in that mindset. You're just doing what you love. Like you're not thinking that yet. So as we got older, I would say when I hit 25 and I moved to back to New York, because this was when I started my career in Florida. So during that time, I'm the hobbyist. I'm exactly what you said. Doing it just for love, like not working, like not really doing it for money, like just having fun with it. Yeah. Then it got to a point where, I actually had a trip to Europe. I was flown out by a company called Beatport. And it's the biggest dance music distribution like platform, like an iTunes. So they actually flew me and my friend out to London to go to a show and to meet artists, and it just opened my eyes to the reality of what we were in. And this is not just a hobby. I'm starting to surround myself with people that are professionals. Yeah. And in the States at that time, this was maybe 5 years ago, I felt like there was a lack of that for artists. I think a lot of people weren't really taking it as serious as the people in Europe, and that's what I saw. When I went to London, I met all these peers of mine that I was meeting online, and everything's done digitally at this point when you're collaborating with artists. And I wound up meeting all these people, and I'm like, wow, these guys are taking it serious. Like this is so much different from what I'm used to and what the energy is like in the States compared to out there, because in Europe it's so much more competitive. Yeah. And there's even schools for that. Like they were ahead of us for the education of dance music. So they had engineering schools and production schools that were already starting to become very popular. And when I saw one in New York, I was like, all right, this is my opportunity to take my hobby and change it into a career. And it's like everybody needs a teacher, right? Like at the end of the day, like I was just trying to do everything myself, and then I had to be real with myself. I was like, I'm not getting where I want to be. So I was like, all right, I need to go and take the next step, go get, professional training in what this is all about, because it's a very technical thing. Like being a musician is one thing, but then being a producer, you're gonna have to learn the programs, all the different plugins that you're gonna use, like the sonics of sound, and like there's just so much to know. And I think it just all comes through experience, of course, but having somebody guiding you through that and telling you what to do and what not to do, it's just like going back to school. It's the same thing. But now I was going to school for something that I was really, truly passionate about.
Yeah.
So,
and you had somebody help you along the way.
Yeah, and that was really when everything kind of broke for me. I signed my first record deal to Nervous Records 3 months into my semester there. And ever since then, it's just been just a steady, climb.
Yeah.
And it's been so much fun, honestly. Like, the people that you meet in this industry are just incredible. I mean, everybody's super down to earth. We're all misfits, honestly, at the end of the day. Like, this is dance music. It was, like, something that was really kind of... it wasn't really accepted when we were younger. It was, it kind of came in and faded out real quick. And nowadays, forget it. You listen to the radio now, everything is electronic music.
Yeah, it really kind of
every genre.
Over. Yeah, even in hip hop, you could hear the influence in pop, country, all of them.
Country, especially now too.
Yeah.
Which is country music. Not a lot of people know is like the biggest music in the United States. So infiltrating that demographic was really incredible. I think Avicii really hit it off.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I think he did it the best. Like, he brought like that soulful country sound to dance music and kind of like made people a little bit more receptive or open to it, at least. So like, thinking 5 years later, now it's like just everywhere. I mean, it's all parts of the world. I mean, we were talking earlier before the podcast started about other parts of the world that are are just in their infancy for this music. So for dance music, it's just starting in Asia or in India as well, is starting to get very, very popular. So it's just an exciting time to be in this industry, and I'm really glad I pushed through it, because I'm working with some of these guys that have been in the industry for almost 30 years now, and they're just like, I've been broke and rich like 10 times over. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like very I guess that's what keeps it exciting.
It's humbling too,
Yeah,
right?
It really is, because you wind up working with like the same people, and you just run into, it's a very small scene.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's like worldwide, I still wind up running into the same people, like in an airport or over in Europe or out over here in the States, and it becomes a family, honestly. And like, we're all in this together, and it's a very cohesive culture that dance music is around, because back in the day, it was like, it kind of broke down barriers. Dance music was where, like, just everybody, who, it doesn't matter who you were, it was just
race,
all love.
color,
People just came together, man. I took a jazz appreciation class like randomly in college, and that kind of gave me a better perspective on like the culture behind jazz. And then I saw it was a parallel between jazz and house music, because it was the same thing. It was like, it brought people together that were kind of misfits, or maybe it wasn't really like socially acceptable or whatever, and that really kind of just, it made me realize that this music is another shot heard around the world. Like, there's something more to this than just being a DJ or a producer. Like, there's so much more.
Yeah.
And I think that's like ultimately what I'm really like, that's what keeps me in this, is like, it's a cultural thing. It's like a spiritual thing. So many different tracks like have come out with those vocals and those acapellas, just like preaching pretty much. It's like a very spiritual, soulful sort of music to vibe to.
Yeah, I want to touch on the power of music and how of a universal thing it is, because something you said before is, a lot of times, and I'm sure many people can relate, a lot of our listeners can relate, they're having a bad day, a rough go at things, and then all of a sudden their favorite song comes on, a song that they've been having stuck in their head or something. It comes on and it instantly changes their mood. you'll if you have a party, you want to get the party going, you want to get people ready, you play music. So the power of music, it's there to get people energized and things like that. But you also mentioned something which I want to unpack as much as you're willing to share. You said, the hard times, right? Music getting you through the hard times. You're like, if I'm quite honest, I don't know, without music, I don't know if I'd be here.
Yep.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. What has music done for you in those hard times? And what are some of those hard times where music was that saving grace?
All right. So, I mean, it's going to sound really childish, but even just going through a breakup, you know, like, I think that was, like, one of the first times that, like, because you feel alone when you're breaking up with somebody. You have this, like, bond with someone, and, and so it's more of an intimate thing. So, like, it's not something that you're just going to go to your boys about sometimes, or, like, talk to your friends and family about. It's like more of a very personal thing that you want to deal with yourself. So it's not like a life or death thing, but it's still like something emotionally that you have to cope with. And bro, I'm talking like maybe 13, 14 years old, and you're just going through love songs or like sad songs. It kind of consoles you. It makes you feel like you're not alone. Yeah. So yeah, the power of music is I call it magic. I really do. It's like there's no other better way to really describe it. There's been a lot of times, I mean, like, it's, I've heard multiple stories from friends of mine. Like, I think one of the most incredible things at this point, and this is what I really got into it for, is when music did that for me, I kind of set out in the same path. Like, this is what I want to do for other people. Like, how am I going to help other people out? And music was always my avenue of, doing that. So recently, in the last couple of years, since I've been producing music, I do have quite a people that will take the time to hit me up or send me a message and say, hey, man, like, I'm going through a lot of things lately, and your tracks, like, really just brought me out of, like, a funk, or, I was going through some stuff, and now, like, I was just partying to your music or just vibing out to your jams, and he's like, I ultimately just feel so much better, and, like, that's what it's all about, honestly, for me, is just being able to share that with other people, and if it helps them out of it just amplifies your emotions in a sense. When you have a great day, you put on some happy jams, and it just amplifies your happiness to that point. And now, same thing when it's like you're going through a tough time, it kind of just consoles you and, like, kind of just puts things into perspective a little bit and makes you, like, I guess it's soothing, man. It really is. It just, like, kind of calms you down and makes you feel like you're not alone. So that's what I really love about this stuff, is being able to share that. I feel like it's the instant bond between people when, like, you're playing music and you're vibing together. You don't even know this person, but you're just having a good time. You're in a space where you're instantly connected, and I think a lot of people relate to that. And kudos to having that mission of impacting others in a positive way. I think a lot of the art we put out as artists, me through the podcast, you through your music, we want to inspire people. We want to help people. We just want them to hear our message, because, I mean, quite frankly, we've probably been there before, and we just want them to feel better in that situation. Moving forward towards, as you're building yourself up, as you're trying to seek bigger and bigger stages, I'm sure from the beginning, you mentioned the roadblock before you went to school, and then the schooling helped you kind of push through that. What are some other challenges along the way that you as an artist has experienced as you're trying to build your craft, as you're trying to build your exposure and get more people aware of who you are and what it is you do, more people to hear your music? What are some of the obstacles you had to kind of get over along the way? Well, we're in a technologically advanced society now, so I mean, it's exactly what we're doing right here. I really think you have to kind of like think outside the box, and everything's been done these days, so I think that's the biggest hurdle, is trying to be creative and unique. And it's a funny concept, because a lot of people get it wrong and they try to overthink it, but at the end of the day, you just got to be you. Like, you are unique, you are loved, and this is who you are, and you need to share that with the world. Don't try to be something you're not, because then you're just going to fall under another one of these categories. You're not going to be unique. So I think that's the most challenging part of what we do as artists, is to really stay true to your art and just make sure that just block out all the noise, because there's a lot, like, there's a lot of influences around you being like, oh, this is popular now, maybe you should go this route, and that's always going to happen. So it's really important, I think, to just stick to your guns and just make sure that you're really just doing it for you. And then if people don't like it, whatever. It's not for them, you know. Like that's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. Everybody's entitled to that. But there are going to be people that relate to that. So I would say definitely that was a big hurdle for me. And I think just like going to the record label now, that's been another, I guess, a new venture for me. I've only been in business maybe 2 or 3 years. I think we're coming up on our 3rd year in March, coming up in 2020. And that was, for me at least, like just learning the business, because I'm a business major in college, but I never learned about music business. I've only just been exposed to it. So I bought a huge book. I forget the name of it. I just read through the whole thing. I mean, just tried to educate myself as much as possible with the music industry, because there's so much business to be had in this industry, but it feels like there's not really a guidebook or a rule book or anything. It's almost like the Wild West. So you really have to be smart and you know, carve out a piece of the pie for yourself, because, you know, I think that's probably another big hurdle that I've had to go through, is like trying to break out and do my own thing, because it's really easy to kind of like fall underneath some of these brands, and some of them are incredible. And I still, to this day, I'll work my ass off to go and push and get signed to these labels that I idolize. Because it's just part of like my agenda. Like I really want to do this just for me though, because I've looked up to these guys and these record labels for years and years and years. So when you actually attain those goals, it just keeps pushing you and pushing you. So you want to like try to not focus too far in the future. You want to be pretty grounded and just make sure you have a lot of short-term goals. I think you psych yourself out. Like at least that was one of my problems, is like I'm thinking way too far. I'm like, I want to be on stage already. Meanwhile, I'm still in my bedroom producing music. So it was a really, you know, it's like you said, it's a humbling experience, like going through these different waves. And like even now, like it's just incredible to be doing festivals now, and this is something that I've always dreamt about. Even when we're talking 15 years ago when I first discovered the music, and I'm going out to Ultra Music Festival in Miami when I'm like 18 years old, you know, not even drinking, nothing, like totally sober, just watching these DJs going. I'm like, wow, I want to be there one day. And I told myself that for years and years, and it's just really difficult, and I'm just so grateful that like it's actually happened. Like this is actually going on now.
And now you see yourself.
And now you just gotta make and then you gotta hit more goals. I mean, we never stop. We're just hungry, man, and that's a really important thing. You have to really strive for these things, you know, because there's so many other people going after the same goal, the same dream. So it pushes you even more. It's like our buddies that we met inside, like meeting guys like that. Their name is Yokai, so they're brand new, and just seeing that energy from like new artists, and seeing how educated they are already with the business and the marketing and promotions and what goes into, because most people think, you know, looking from the outside in, it's just rainbows and sunshine all the time, you know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into all this stuff. I mean, there's countless hours of planning and thinking of your logo and your brand, and you know, just it's incredible, man. And honestly, like I wouldn't change it. It's been so much fun, and I think we're just getting started, to be honest. Like I feel like it's just the beginning.
I love it. And Kay, keep going, keep staying hungry. I love the fact that you mentioned that, because even just kind of was reading psychology would always say, you know, it's harder for a champion to repeat, because the person that's contesting the champion's hungrier. Oftentimes, it's hard to keep that hunger once you accomplish what you were trying to accomplish. So keep setting those goals, keep going on to the next one. And something you said earlier, and I love how you have both ends, right? Because you mentioned when you first went to Europe and you're meeting with these people who are doing it professionally, that opened your eyes as to this is possible, this is something you can do. And then now when you kind of get to that step where you're making this your livelihood, and you see these new up-and-coming artists, these new artists that are coming into the game, and you see their hunger and that freshness, having that perspective helps keep you hungry. So I think it's
inspiring.
Important, to kind of sandwich yourself between the people who are where you want to be, but also the people who are trying to get to where you are, because it keeps you hungry and it keeps you something to aim for, and it really opens your eyes, man. I love
it's
that.
important. I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by yourself as well. I mean, like,
Appreciate that.
it's just, I think it's really important who you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents always used to preach that, like, oh, you're hanging out with riffraffs over here, you're gonna turn out like that. I'm like, relax,
Yeah.
But it's really true. At the end of the day, like, when you're starting to get into business for yourself, you really do want to surround yourself with ambitious people that have that same hunger.
Yeah.
Because you're only gonna push each other.
Yeah.
It's like friendly competition.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And you
that's,
want to see them win?
Yeah, man. Honestly, like, I want to see them win so I could come back and beat them next year.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It just keeps a really healthy relationship between all the people within the dance music scene.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't see a lot of conflict or things like that. It's very cohesive. It's all about love. Like, this music was derived from that. It's all about bringing people together. So
yeah.
I mean, if you're deviating from that, then you really shouldn't be in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm very fortunate to be in this industry, and I think there's really no better place for me to sit.
Yeah.
Because I just always want to keep pushing people to strive for greatness and just to do what's best for them as well. So yeah, I mean, the people in this industry are incredible, and honestly, it's just been such a ride, bro.
Nice. Click, buckle up.
Yeah, yeah.
As we start wrapping things up, you were talking about a Twitch stream that you saw, because you were mentioning how this industry has been crazy on what it can infiltrate, not just other genres, but the music industry really kind of infiltrating gaming and other industries, whatnot. One of those things you saw firsthand with Twitch, the streaming service, and also a charity. Talk a little bit about that, what you were exposed to.
Yeah, so when we arrived to the festival, they have, it's Imagine Music Festival, and they have a Twitch gaming sector inside the building. And as we walked in, I'm looking at Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, like Counter-Strike, all these computer games like set up, and I'm like, that already strikes my head. I'm a gamer from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I walk in there and I'm like, and I'm already starting to see the trend of music and gaming coming together. And I was unaware of it, and the fact that they're pairing it up with a charity is incredible. When I was in martial arts as a kid, that's all we used to do is demonstrations for charity.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just incredible. And I mean, I'm aiming to do exactly that with music. And already seeing people pioneering that is incredible. And I mean, it's exactly what you said. You're starting to market dance music and reach even a broader audience when you start bringing in different platforms like that. Like the gaming industry is just absolutely blowing up. For example, they had Marshmello do an in-game concert on the game Fortnite, which was just I couldn't believe it. I had to log into the game and go see it for myself, because it was it was revolutionary. Nothing like that has ever been done in this industry. And I think they tallied up to about 10 million people logged in for about 10, 15 minutes to see Marshmello DJ inside of a video game.
Which, I mean, there's your validation.
Are we in the future or what?
Yeah, there's the proof right there. 10 million people logging in.
Yeah.
There's one thing if you build it, but when they come, you got something, right?
Yeah, it's incredible, man. And honestly, like, I think that synergy between all these different platforms is really important. It's going to ultimately help everybody out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we talk about no rain, no rainbows on this podcast. Obviously, we go through the rain to get to our rainbows. What are some of the goals you're chasing now, the rainbows that you're working on, and what's next for Greco NYC?
Wow, I love that. I love the name, too. That's awesome. Right now, I'm in the middle of a new venture, and it's definitely the scariest thing I've ever gone after, because we all take risks here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm taking a shot, and I'm really confident with it, because I used to host events when I was working at radio stations as a kid. I was 18 years old, working at Clear Channel Radio, which is iHeartMedia now. And we were just constantly just hosting music events, but never for dance music. It was country music, rock, hip-hop, pop music, but never dance. And I don't know why it never occurred to me to do something like that for us, because we're here at Imagine Music Festival. This thing is a huge, massive thing.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to comprehend or to even strive to do something like this. But I guess as we get older, we start, kind of growing into ourselves, being more confident with our abilities. Like, we've already taken a bunch of risks in our life. We know to assess what's more doable or what's kind of like out of reach.
What's
Like
the
you don't want to play
downside?
yourself. Yeah, you want to be very real with yourself. So I think like at this point, it just clicked. I was like, wow, I'm doing this. I'm doing DJing, producing. We got a management company set up. We're doing promotions again, and the industry is really starting to transition into the festival culture. And a lot of people would love to go out during the day for a couple days on a weekend or a holiday weekend rather than going to a club on a Friday or Saturday, because you're spending about the same amount of money, and you're only maybe seeing 1 or 2 DJs. But if you go to a festival, it's like you're seeing almost 100 DJs in a span of 3 days for a fraction of the cost. Plus, it's like something interesting. They bring artwork. They bring really cool installments of like, they're getting more and more creative now. This one has an ocean theme, so everything was based off of that. And now we're about to do the same thing in Florida. So I'm in another transitional period. When I was 25, I hit New York to go back to school, and maybe I'm a year behind because I'm 31 now. So I was hoping at 30, but I had an old friend of mine he was like, don't worry about the timing, just as long as you're doing it. Just remember that. Like, give yourself a time frame, but don't beat yourself up if you don't make it by 30 or whatever. Like, don't keep that over your head like that's gonna change anything. Sometimes it happens quick, sometimes it takes a little more time. So that's pretty much where I'm at, and I'm really excited to go back home to Florida, where I lived for about 7-8 years and where I started DJing. And bring something really creative and fun and new for the dance music community in Florida.
Awesome.
So that's as much as I can say for now. We're going to do another one of these maybe in a month or 2 or 3 months. Like, hopefully we can brush on that subject again, because I'd love to really get more deeper into that, because it's a really exciting venture.
Yeah.
And just being able to share that with you guys, I think would be really cool and inspiring, because you have to take risks in life, to really, like, it's that glory moment, like, without great risk, that you might not ever be able to attain those goals that you were like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I could never do that. Or people will look at you like you're crazy for even mentioning doing something like that. Or like, so if your dreams don't scare you, then you ain't dreaming big enough.
Absolutely.
That's like David Bowie, I think, was saying that in one of his interviews, and that really stuck with me. I mean, and he was a huge innovator for music, in my opinion, and I try to just kind of uphold that, with everything that I do, and try to just like give 110%. So
nice.
It's exactly what we're gonna do out in Florida. It's gonna be another festival. It's going to be Labor Day weekend 2020 in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Mark your calendars.
And, we're going to do it up. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to bring a lot of really interesting acts, like people that you may or may not have seen in a while.
Yeah.
We're going to do some nostalgia. We're going to do some new cutting-edge music, and we're really going to try to bring the Twitch and the gaming together. Like, we're really going to try to just bring a full circle kind of festival and community event for the town as well, because this is all going to be spread out within the city of St. Petersburg, and I think that's why a lot of these places, like, we've played at festivals in Detroit, for example, and the city is not doing very well, but when we come in and this festival comes in, for example, I mean, they're generating so much income. Like, the police, the fire department, they're all getting overtime, like, and they love it. They come to us and they're all like, they're happy. Like, I've never seen people so like excited to be they're like working with us, and it's incredible to see that dance music is able to, help people like that.
Yeah.
And that I never saw until like recently.
Nice, man.
And now it's actually, if I'm capable of doing that or even have a shot at it, I'm going to take the shot.
Go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see how it turns out. I'll be tuning in, and of course I'll be watching you every step of the way, and I'll be marking my calendar too.
Yeah, man. We'll have you out there. We'll do a podcast on site.
I love that. Right on stage. Let's do it.
Yeah, that'll be great,
Live
man.
audience. So for anybody that wants to keep in touch with the progression of that, how can people reach out and get your music? How can they get in touch with you, find out what you're doing, where you're going to be performing, and
absolutely.
where you're touring next?
Instagram is Greco's House. And then if you really want to go on like iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, you can search Greco NYC. I'll come right up.
Perfect. And I'll have all those links in the show notes and everything for everybody. Man, thanks for taking the time today out here in the sun.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, anybody?
Like, we got to catch up too. It's been almost 10 years since we got to hang out.
I know,
so it's
man.
amazing, man. I love the fact that you're doing this and you're able to help people like myself, and it's just incredible what you're doing, and I wish you all the best with the podcast and
Nice.
and the future, man.
I appreciate it. Well, we're definitely going to be crossing paths again soon, because I just like, I've always kept an eye on what you're doing, and
Likewise, man. Likewise.
And it's good to see. Once I got the shout from Greg when he was like, "Yo, we're going to be in Atlanta 2 hours up the road," I'm like, I can make that work. So
yeah, and thank you for taking the trip, man. And I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And anybody watching on YouTube right now, you see the pool over here. Greco's living good.
We might take a dip. We
Yeah.
might take a dip in a minute.
Yeah, jump in right after. But man, thanks so much, and we'll definitely be doing another one of these on stage at
Sounds
your
great.
music festival.
I
and
look
can't
forward
wait
to
for
it, man.
All right, man, Greco, thanks
so much, bro.
And anybody that made it to the end of the episode, we appreciate you. And we always say at the end, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without a little pain.
There you go.
Let's
Love
go.
it. Peace, guys.
Yep.